Yes, that was a giant sigh. And not because I'm exhausted from physically, just from doing work. I am exhausted physically because the folks in Washington are exhausting. I am outraged. And so get ready, guys. Look, I don't know what you think about this. I don't have very nice words to say about too many people, especially in the MAGA movement right now, because they are fucking promoting and condoning racism. And everybody who doesn't believe in that, which I hope is most of America, should push back loudly and strongly. I'm going to show you what happened. But before I get into this, JD Vance, what is wrong with you? Are you out of your mind? Are you that spineless? Your wife is Indian. Your children are Indian Americans. And yet you are condoning and I believe promoting racism in the most vile, deliberate way. And you know better. You know better is the issue. You know better, and yet you're doing it. I can't imagine what your wife and your children must feel like. Imagine what your in-laws feel like. I can't imagine. Maybe they're not telling you, but deep down inside, they're cringing. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. It is disgusting. Let me catch you up on this, okay? So remember we told you about the DOGE staffer who had to resign because of his racist tweets? He's racist. That's not libel or slanderous because he's admitted to it. He has said that he was racist before it was cool. He was racist before it was cool. He also said other things like condone Indian hate. He also said you couldn't pay me to date or marry someone outside of my race. And then he said that Gaza and Israel should be wiped from the face of the earth. This is his story. So yesterday, the Wall Street Journal, of all places, a Rupert Murdoch right-wing news publication, reported that this DOGE staffer had resigned over racist posts. Employee has links to a deleted social media account that advocated for racism and eugenics. Eugenics has something to do, it's with people who promote and believe that there should be a master race that has master race characteristics, the way they look and the way they think. Good Lord, what have I missed today? You've missed a lot. Please roll up. Do we have the rest of this reporting? So they found and called and asked the folks at DOGE and at the White House what happened. What happened? And was this person the person that had this pseudonym on Twitter with all of these racist tweets? I'm just going to give you the backstory. And I'm going to tell you, you're not going to believe what happened today. And this is why I cannot believe, JD Vance, you should be embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. A staffer for Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, whose access to U.S. Treasury payment system was approved by a federal judge on Thursday, which was yesterday, has links to a deleted social media account that advocated for racism and eugenics. He's a 25-year-old. His name is Marco Elez. He resigned on Thursday, the same day that he was approved by a federal judge to have access to all of your information. The Wall Street Journal asked the White House about his connection to the account. The deleted profile associated with Elez, who was embedded in the Treasury Department to carry out efficiency measures, advocated for, get this, repealing the Civil Rights Act and backed a eugenic immigration policy. Scroll down, please, Peter. Or up. Eugenics immigration policy. In the weeks, now this happened in the weeks before Donald Trump was inaugurated. This wasn't something that happened 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. It happened in the weeks before Donald Trump was inaugurated. You could not pay me to marry outside of my ethnicity, Elez said. The account wrote on X in the September posting. That's according to the Wall Street Journal review of archived posts. Normalize Indian hate. Get the quote specifically correct. I may have seen bring back, but normalize Indian hate. The account wrote the same month, that was in September, in reference to a post noting the prevalence of people from India in Silicon Valley. After that, Wired reported that staffer had resigned. The Wired reporting who the staffer was and more information on this staffer. Let's see the Wired report. So they had claimed, by the way, that this DOGE employee, who is this LS, that he didn't have access to write access. He didn't have write access, which means he couldn't change information that was within the system, your information, your private information, when he actually had the ability to be able to do it. And so who knows what he did or any of them did in that time? Sources tell Wired that the ability of DOGE's Marco LS to alter code controlling trillions in federal spending was rescinded days after U.S. Treasury and White House officials says it didn't exist. So they're not giving you the right information, not telling you the truth in all of this. Well, after he resigned, remember who is running DOGE? It is Elon Musk. Elon Musk put up a poll on Twitter asking if you should bring back the DOGE staffer who made inappropriate statements via a now deleted pseudonym. 78% of the people, almost 80% of the people on Twitter said, yeah, bring him back. Out of 21.3 million views, the final results of 385,247 votes, almost 80% of them said to bring him back. Here's Elon Musk's tweet right here. The next one, where Elon Musk says, breaking, this is Axios, excuse me, that's not Elon Musk's tweet. Breaking, according to Axios, Elon Musk says DOGE staffer who resigned over racist tweets will be brought back. I'm not kidding you. And then the vice president of the United States, whose name is JD Vance, tweeted on his account. Here's my view. I obviously disagree with some of Alez's posts, but I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people ever. So I say, bring him back. If he is a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. Either you're an idiot or you're playing one in the White House. Let's start from the bottom up. If he is a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him or bring him back. That's why he was fired, because he was a bad dude and a terrible team member. He promoted racism against the very people who you go home to every single night. He wants to normalize hate against members of your own family, you fucking idiot. Are you out of your mind? If he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. That's why he was fired, because he was a bad dude and a bad member of the team. So right there doesn't make sense. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people ever. How are journalists trying to destroy people when they are just reading back and putting up the words of someone on the screen, the words that they said, they're quoting them? It's always MAGA and Donald Trump who say, oh my gosh, I never said that. I can't believe it. What are you talking about? When and why are you questioning, or why are you badgering me with these questions? Because it's your own words. All people are asking about is, why did you say that? Why did this staffer say that? I'm sure a journalist did not call the White House and say, fire this person. They called and they inquired about the person and said, what are you going to do? Is this the person? And then you responded, the White House, by saying the person had resigned or been forced to resign or whatever it is that you said. So either the president or someone at the White House approved it. Journalists don't demand that people be fired. JD Vance, you're a liar. And you know it. no backbone. If someone was promoting discrimination against people who I love, against my family, I would be outraged. I wouldn't be embracing them, saying, come on in, go ahead, call my wife, be hateful against my wife. Go ahead, bring back hate against my children. Normalize hate against the very people that I love. It's okay, it's okay. Are you stupid? I obviously disagree with some of Velez's posts, but I don't think stupid. Hang on, let me just do that. I obviously disagree with some of Velez's posts. I'm going to stop right there for the moment. Pause. Which ones do you disagree with? JD Spineless Vance? The ones where he says that Israel and Gaza should be wiped off the face of the earth? Okay. The ones where he said, I would never, you couldn't pay me to marry someone outside of my race. Is that the one you disagree with? Or are there some that you actually agree with? Do you agree with the one that says that they should normalize hate against members of your family, against their loved ones? Which ones do you actually disagree with or agree with? This post makes no sense, and it makes you look spineless and shiftless and heartless and like a bad husband and father. Because if my father said some shit like that, I'd be like, wait, Dad, what the fuck is wrong with you? Are you out of your damn mind? You are normalizing hate against me? There are people who are pissed, who are really pissed and upset for legitimate reasons. Legitimate reasons that their kids are being faced with hate on college campuses. Remember what happened with everything that's been going on with Jewish kids on college campuses. And you were telling people to go ahead and normalize hate against a certain group of people who happen to be the people that you love in your own family. I don't understand it. Is any job or any membership in a club, the MAGA club, worth that? But I don't think, even that you disagree with some of it, I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. A kid, you say. A kid, you say. So if he is such a dumb kid that you think that oh my God, he makes mistakes and he's a kid, why the fuck does he have access to all of our personal information? How can he in some way be in charge of all of the treasury information about us, our social security numbers, etc.? Why would we want someone who is so stupid to post something like that? Why would we want them even in that position? JD dumb DEI Vance, are you out of your damn mind? So either he is smart enough, brilliant enough, as you say, should be only the best people to be in that position, or he is a dumb kid. You cannot have it both ways. So you are not making sense, you idiot. And it's not like this isn't a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, 17-year-old, 20-year-old. He's 25 years old. He can make his own decisions at 25 years old. Listen, this is what, look, they look like tweens. This is who is running the information at DOGE. Look at these. Look at them. Here they are. Hearing people all over the place calling them tweens, that they look like tweens. I don't know how old these folks are, but I do know that Marco Ellis is 25 years old and he is promoting hate and you are condoning it, and you, in essence, by affiliation, are promoting it too. I cannot believe that you are even, that tweet would even come, you would have the nerve to write it. Did someone write that tweet for you on your social media team and you didn't approve it? Because that's the only way that I could see that something that stupid could come from a sitting vice president who is married to an Indian American woman and who has Indian American kids. Imagine these kids when they're old enough. I think you have young kids. When they're old enough and they're able to understand the context of what happened here, they'd be like, what did my dad do? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed by my dad. He's like condoning hate against me. Those kids probably would want to be emancipated after that. I don't know. I'm just saying. I want to bring in Will Salatin, who is a writer at The Bulwark. And Will, thank you so much for joining us. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't want to go off with you there, but Will has a piece. Let's put up his piece that Will wrote. And he's asking if Republicans are, what did you say? Are they using the airplane incident to promote racism? Republicans are using the DC plane crash to peddle racism. That was in The Bulwark. And it appears not just, Will, using the plane crash, but also just outright in your face saying racism is okay. Am I wrong?
Right. That's exactly what's going on. So the big picture here is this administration, Trump, Vance, and all those guys are challenging, threatening, destroying various norms, cultural, moral principles that we all agreed on. One of them is a consensus that we have tried to establish in this country in the last 60 years, say, since the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, that it is wrong to be openly prejudiced against people on account of race, sex, etc. So the version that's coming at us now from Trump and Vance is DEI. And look, I understand that there are disputes about the way DEI is conducted in some situations. There are these struggle sessions sometimes that are clumsy and unhelpful for anybody. But the version that we're getting from Trump and Vance is straight up bigotry. And so here's what happened. We had this plane crash in DC. Trump gets up the next day with no information. He tells the reporters, they ask him, he doesn't really know who's at fault here. And he blames DEI. The
pilots were white, by the way.
Right. Everybody in the helicopter, which may have been involved in being too high, everybody's white in the helicopter. We don't know about air traffic control, but the point is Trump has no information. He gets up, he says, there was a group within the FAA years ago, that determined the workforce was too white. He said they came out with a directive that it was too white, and we want people that are competent. That is a quote from Donald Trump. They said people are too white. We want people who are competent. We need only the best and the brightest. We got to stop with this DEI. So Don, we're not stupid. He's saying that white people are smarter. They're the best and the brightest. And when we went to bringing in non-white people, that somehow degraded the air traffic controllers. Again, he has no information. So when you blame something on a group of people by race, ethnicity, or whatever, with no information, and you attribute to them inferiority at doing their job, that is straight up prejudice. Like there's no other word for it. So there's nothing subtle about this. And it is totally of a piece with everything that you are reporting and describing here. They are trying to bring back open racism and tear down the norm that we have tried to establish in this country, that you don't do that you don't judge people without any information on the basis of race, sex, or other characteristics.
What is this? Where have we gotten to? Because it's a racism in the open. I think they said like superior intellect. What they're espousing, I heard this at the press conference, is eugenics. That's what Donald Trump is espousing. By the way, let's play. I want you to, because this is directly what Will's piece was about. But then I'm going to broaden it out. But this is what Will was responding to. This is Donald Trump at that press conference blaming it on DEI. Here it is, with no evidence, obviously.
Mr. President, you have today blamed the diversity elements, but then told us that you weren't sure that the controllers made any mistake. We then said perhaps the helicopter pilots were the ones who made the mistake.
It's all under investigation.
I understand that. That's why I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't.
What is that? I have common sense, and unfortunately, people don't. What is it? That common sense is not evidence. Well, and I don't think that this is common sense.
Right. Well, when he says common sense instead of evidence, just to be super blunt about this, I don't have evidence, but my intuition is that it's because we hired non-white people. That's the definition. Don, that's the textbook definition of racial prejudice.
Yeah. It is. Today, when he was, this is what, when they talk about this DEI thing, I don't know if you know who Van Lathan is. Van Lathan has a podcast called Higher Learning, Higher Ground, or the Higher Learning podcast. And we talked about what this new word DEI, and I said, why don't they just go ahead and say the word? And if you know what word I'm talking about. But he believes that DEI is actually worse than the word, which is the N word. I want you to listen to this conversation. I wonder if you agree. I'm not going to get you in trouble with the N word. Don't worry. But listen, this is my conversation. Part of my conversation with Van Lathan. Here it is.
N-word, right? The N-word as a slur has existed to dehumanize Black people for a long time. And there's been a definition that signals not a person, not a human being, which is the reason why it still stirs up the emotions that it does. The DEI thing now is associating Black people with cataclysm in a way that I'm not sure even the N-word did. Meaning, if there is a fire and there is a Black person in the office that's supposed to deal with the fire, it's because that Black person is there. Mm-hmm. The moment that this unspeakable tragedy happens in DC, we start finding a way to blame DEI. Okay, let's make sure, or let's see if anybody piloting any of these planes or in the control tower was not a straight white male, which means that was the reason that this happened. The list goes on and on. There's a bridge collapse in Baltimore. A duly elected mayor is called a DEI mayor, a duly elected mayor. So what DEI, or the term DEI, or the weaponization, the bastardization of the term DEI, what it does is it says all of society's problems are because this group of people, heavily associated with Black people, as we've seen it used, but also gay people, trans people, women, and anyone of the like.
Well,
yeah, he's exactly right. So first of all, he captures the essence of it, which is done. It's a reflex. A thing happened, a bad thing happened, no information. The reflex is blame the hiring of non-white people. Okay, that's the reflex is the essence of what makes it racist. I don't need any thought. I mean, this is the way people were, but a century ago, this was the way a lot of white people thought. And Trump and Vance and these guys are trying to bring it back. Remember what they said about Kamala Harris. Okay, Trump went around at all his rallies this past fall saying that she was. Now, the other Republicans called her that word, DEI. She was a DEI hire. Remember all the congressional Republicans describing her that way? Trump didn't use that word. Trump had a different word. He said Biden was demented. He was like losing it, but he was smarter than Harris. He said Harris was, quote, this is Trump's words, quote, very dumb. And he used multiple rallies. He would go to his rallies. She's very dumb. Now, remember, this is a woman who wiped the floor with Donald Trump in their debate. Everybody saw that, right? But because she's what? A woman, Black, Indian. He even argued about whether she was Black or Indian, like she couldn't be both. Yeah. But the point is, he says that she was very dumb. And he said, but the Democrats nominated her because they wanted to be, again, his words, politically correct. So that's his version of the DEI argument. But then he comes out after the plane crash and he's parroting the DEI stuff. By the way, Don, who gets up at that press conference and parrots what Trump said about DEI? JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary. Don, can you name me two people less obviously qualified for their jobs than JD Vance and Pete Hegseth? Pete Hegseth, a Fox News host who, he served in the military, but the idea that he was competent to go into an administrative job never having had one, or that JD Vance, 2 years in the Senate, and he goes in to be vice president. Nobody's ever been less competent, less qualified to be vice president. But white people who are obviously not qualified for their jobs, somehow that's not part of this DEI rap.
Look, as you say, I believe it's out and out promoting racism. One person that even Marco Rubio has appointed is a person, I think he's going to be the undersecretary for diplomacy or something like that.
Yeah.
Tweeted out this Darren J. Beatty. Competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. I cannot say it more plainly than this. This is not a dog whistle. This is not covert racism. They are actually saying, this isn't even the quiet part out loud. This is the out loud part now. I believe that this administration will, I don't know if this is your belief, have become the imprimaturs of bigotry, racism, hate, and ignorance. I love the poorly educated. That is the purpose, to try to make sure to limit people's knowledge by trying to control the media. I believe JD Vance said today, I'm not sure if it was in a tweet or if someone asked him, please find it, producers, that the reporter who led this story, who broke this story, should be fired.
Right. Right. And that's of a piece with the whole January 6th thing, where we're going to pardon all the criminals and we're going to investigate the people who prosecuted them. So it's a moral inversion, right? The Trump administration has made the bad guys into the good guys, and they're going to prosecute and so in this case, in the case of a reporter who investigated and exposed the overt racism of this employee, we're going to reinstate the employee, and we're going to pursue and try to punish the reporter for finding the truth. Can I just flag a couple of things about that tweet you got there? That's really interesting, the Darren Beatty thing. First of all, look at the date. That's October. That's 4 months ago.
Right.
Okay. That's not like, so this whole excuse Vance has about, oh, let's forgive people for something they did when they were kids. First of all, as you point out, Don, like if the guy's 25, we're talking about LS, right? That he's like, he shouldn't be messing with in government computers with everybody's information at that age. And you can't say that, well, it was some years ago that he did this. It was quite recent. Darren Beatty, that's 4 months ago. And what job have they put Darren Beatty in? It was I believe it was Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy. Mm-hmm. The guy is like openly racist against like the ethnicities of half the world. And you're going to put him in charge of public diplomacy? First of all, that's a DEI hire. He's plainly unqualified. And secondly, he's disqualified by virtue of his overt bigotry, but he gets the job.
I cannot believe that JD Vance on Twitter is going back between Ro Khanna, and Ro Khanna is also an Indian American, right? Ro Khanna is saying, no one is denying. So JD Vance writes, for the sake of both of our kids, grow up, right? To Ro Khanna. Racist trolls on the internet, while offensive, don't threaten my kids. You know what does? A culture that denies grace to people who make mistakes. A culture that encourages congressmen to act like whiny children. Why is complaining about someone who is espousing racist behavior? How is that complaining? And then Ro Khanna says, no one is denying grace to people who make mistakes. I respect Usha, praised her publicly, talking about his wife. Usha is JD Vance's wife, and defended your family from some of the vicious attacks. But if you are going to rehire someone to represent you and the U.S., why not insist he apologize for saying normalize Indian hate? He can't even ask the person to apologize. Would you? Well, I don't even know. Will South, what's your background? I have no idea. What's your background?
I'm just the Eastern European Jew. That's
okay. Okay. If someone said normalize Eastern European Jews, Jew hate.
Yeah.
Would you want them working? Would you want them having all of your information at the Treasury? Would you, at the very least, not want them to apologize for that? Would you be okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, one of the bizarre things to me, Don, is that the Jewish hate in the Trump administration, they are squarely against anti-Semitism. So like my people are somehow insulated from this, but I don't trust these guys from 6 feet away because they're openly bigoted against everybody else. Why should I believe that? I mean, I don't at all feel safe with that. And can we pause on the word normalize?
Yes.
That is really that phrase is the essence of what these guys are doing. They are trying to normalize it. They're trying to, and normalize is the destruction of the cultural norm that we don't judge people by the color of their skin or by their ethnicity. They are trying to normalize prejudice. It is not a momentary lapse. What you've documented here is a pattern, right? One after another after another. And you haven't even had to go and bring up what Trump said about like South Africa, going after, what did he call it in his tweet, a certain category of people. And it's protecting white people, looking out for white people, which, when there's oppression of white people somewhere, okay, I can understand that. But it's in the context of everything that you've just documented, it's not about that. It's about blaming and stigmatizing and stirring up hate against non-white people.
I want to ask you, this is the person who said that, I think he said that Gaza and his thing, I want to get the tweet straight. I believe he said that Israel and Gaza should be wiped off the face of the earth. Let me just double check to make sure that I have the right thing with that. Stand by before. But while I'm doing that, he says an earlier post on the Middle East expressed support for Israel, but added, I would not mind it if all of Gaza and Israel were both wiped off the face of the earth. And do you remember just days ago, who was at the White House?
Netanyahu.
The prime minister was at the White House. And here is Donald Trump, when asked about why he supports, or his vice president supports, this racist, and I'm not saying that I'm not denigrating him. This isn't slander, because he says, just for the record, I was racist before it was cool. That's what LS says. This is Donald Trump, who was just with Benjamin Netanyahu. This is what he said. This is his reason for supporting the bringing back of the staff member and his vice president. Here it is.
DOGE engineers was fired for some inappropriate posts. The vice president says, bring him back. What do you say?
Well, I don't know about the particular thing, but if the vice president said that, did you say that? I'm with the vice president. Thank you, Peter.
Well,
okay. What we're seeing here is an echo chamber. So you and I hope most of America, are part of the culture of don't be prejudiced against other people. Don't judge people by the color of their skin, and don't condone, don't normalize ethnic hatred. Trump, Vance, and Musk have their own echo chamber, an echo chamber of bigotry, in which Trump says, well, if Vance says it, that's cool with me. And if Vance says, if Trump says it, that's cool with me. Remember, back to the January 6th pardons, Vance said, we're not going to pardon people who committed violence against the cops. Trump then pardons people who committed violence against the cops. And Vance says, okay, cool. If Trump did it, I support it. And so they're all reinforcing each other. And Elon Musk is rehiring the guy. I don't even remember the sequence of how this happened. The guy gets rehired, but Trump, Vance, and Musk are just listening to each other, and they're going down this spiral in which all of the norms, all the rules vanish. So we can't count on, you were speaking about Vance waiting for him to have some kind of a backbone because of his wife. I've left that behind. He has no backbone, and he's in that job. Vance is vice president because Mike Pence had a backbone, and Vance doesn't. And he said he would do things for Trump, like try to overturn an election. So when it comes to his wife, is he going to stand up for non-white Americans or South Asian Americans or any other ethnicity because of his wife? Demonstrably, no. He has no spine.
You said to me something just moments ago. You said, can you imagine two people who are on that stage? Well, first of all, Donald Trump I don't believe, is qualified to be in the job that he's in, and should be eligible, considering he was found guilty on 34 criminal counts and in a civil court liable of sexual abuse. Okay. So I don't believe that he is qualified to be president of the United States. Pete Hegseth, who is a former Fox News morning show anchor, shouldn't be anywhere near the Department of Justice, perhaps as a spokesperson, maybe. And then JD Vance I don't believe is qualified. Obviously, if he can't defend his wife and his family, is not qualified to be vice president of the United States. But also, I believe every single person on that stage is not qualified, including Sean Duffy, correct?
Right.
Sean Duffy became an elected politician. But this is how Sean Duffy got his start, which everyone, I've known about this forever since he became a host on Fox News. But this is the other person who's up there on the stage, preaching and chastising the American people about DEI and people who aren't qualified for their jobs. This is how he got his start. Watch.
Another juicy secret about the real world is Sean's not a lumberjack. He's a Chippendale dancer.
I need more light, dog. Montana, give me some light. Get my boy put it in. Reaction of the crowd.
Sean was really pushing the limits. He wanted to see Montana's mountains.
And this is where we are. And they're talking about, hey, a merit-based society. This is what it is. Well, I know you have to go, but just give me if you have to, you have just a couple more minutes.
Sure, sure.
That is a Treasury Secretary. Donald Trump in that very same press
Transportation. That's a
transportation.
Yeah.
That is a transportation secretary. And so in that very same press conference where he talked about, where he's saying, that we should be merit-based and only the best people, and not basically saying that it should be white guys, right? There you have Sean Duffy, who is the transportation secretary. Donald Trump talks shit about Pete Buttigieg, that he was a disaster and unqualified. I doubt that there's any video like that exists from Pete Buttigieg. And if there is, okay, well, God bless him. But do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh, totally. Can I say one thing on that? This is, okay, so they didn't, Trump and Vance and those guys at the original press conference, they were talking about black and white. Later, a couple of days later, Brian Mast, who's now the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, is on TV, and they asked him about the DEI thing. And he says the same thing, plane crash, DEI, all this stuff. And he starts talking about lifestyle. He used the phrase lifestyle. He said, when they brought in this DEI, they made the priority appearance and lifestyle. Now, you just saw lifestyle, right? Like, lifestyle got code for gay, but like, come on, man. Like that, what we just saw is like, if you want to talk about sort of flamboyant or sexually, dubious or whatever, that's a straight guy being way more out there. Meanwhile, married Pete Buttigieg with 2 kids is like the epitome of a normie guy, right? And they dare to suggest that Pete Buttigieg was an inferior transportation secretary because he was gay. Don, if you look at fatal air crashes in this century, there's only one transportation secretary who did not preside over a fatal air crash, the gay one, right? But those guys, they ignore the facts of who's competent and gay. They ignore the fact of who's obviously unqualified and a white man. And you just named 3 of them: Trump, Vance, and Duffy, but Hegseth for sure. So this is all bigotry, and it's not just morally wrong, it's factually wrong, because the incompetent people, the people who presided over the plane crashes, were not the minorities.
Yeah. Well, Will Sayre, you're right. Will said Pete is so square. He is. Pete is like, just all that. We're talking about when was America honestly a merit-based society, right? It was always built for people like Donald Trump, people like Pete Hegseth, and so on. Every person who is up on that stage, every white man. That's what America. That's what wrote the Constitution for white men, not white women, not certainly not people of color. I'm just saying. So let's just talk about merit-based real quick. That's why I said I want you to hold on. This is from one of the DOGE tweens, right? This is at full screen of them. This is what happened to one of them. That he was removed from a company, a cybersecurity company. We could put that up. And again, this is a member of the DOGE team, or we're calling them the DOGE tweens. We'll put that up. He was leaking company information, cybersecurity company information. Here it is. Another day of DOGE tweens. Edward Korstein was fired by a cybersecurity firm for leaking company secrets. Now he has access to Treasury Department data. Okay. And then there's one more. I think that's a headline about him. U.S. Treasury threat. Oh, there's the members of the DOGE team have been deemed by the U.S. Treasury as, here it is, a U.S. Treasury threat intelligence analysis has designated DOGE staff an insider threat. An internal email calls DOGE staff access to payment systems the single biggest insider threat risk the Bureau of the Fiscal Service has ever faced. So can we talk about merit based and who should have a job and who is qualified, that's merit based?
Yeah.
Well,
okay. So look, there's a couple of things I want to separate there. So one, let's talk about vetting, which is when we talk about merit, some of it is about vetting. Trump comes in, he's like, and Musk, and they're like, hey, too much red tape and bureaucracy, and we're going to go in there and tear it all out, right? And we're not going to go through all the bureaucratic processes. Well, part of what we have in the government with these bureaucratic processes is vetting, right? We find that we make sure people are qualified for their job. We make sure they don't have a criminal background. We make sure they don't have a history of violating privacy and security rules and like leaking information like that guy does. So these guys who are coming in from Musk, they have no vetting, right? And they have access to your information. And in this case, somebody who's directly unqualified and directly a threat based on his past behavior. So that's one aspect of merit. But let me come to your point about merit as sort of a black and white or about minorities. There are a lot of people in America who believe that DEI in some versions went too far and that we should judge people by merit. And that's fine, okay? If people who want to believe, right, that's like—
I agree 100%. I agree 100%.
The idea of merit is fine. What people need to understand is that what is going on now, what Trump and Vance and their administration are doing is not merit. It is straight out bigotry. And that is the point. So America needs to decide, are you okay with bigotry? Are you okay with judging people based on the color of their skin or their religion or where their parents came from, with no information about their qualifications, while you look the other way at all of the white people who are plainly unqualified for their jobs?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect ending to kick you out. Get your ass out of here. You're not qualified to be on this show. We love having you. Thank you, Will Salatin.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Well, what are you working on? Anything that we should know about?
More of the craziness. They won't stop with it. So it'll be whatever the next nutty thing that Trump and Musk do.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. Have a great weekend, okay?
You too, man.
Appreciate you coming on. We'll see you soon. So that's Will Salatin. So listen, guys. Someone asked me about that today as I was walking around the NFL. We went to a thing called Radio Row, and people asked me about what was going on and how I felt about the whole DEI thing. And I said, I believe that we're in a time now where our leaders are promoting bigotry, racism, and hate. And America needs to decide if they're okay with it. Now, I think America, yes, you voted, but I don't think America voted for this. Not everyone in America. Maybe I'm wrong. And I always say, people always get mad when you call MAGA or members of MAGA racist, because then they say you're calling all of MAGA racist. Say about that what you will. But you had to overlook a lot of racism and a lot of bullshit in order to support it and to vote for it. So if you're not racist, then you are racist adjacent or you're racist okay with it. That means you're condoning it. Because if I think that someone is racist or hateful or bigoted, then I am not going to vote for them. So MAGA, don't get all butthurt and bent out of shape when people say that, because maybe you don't think that you are, but you certainly closed your eyes and you pulled that lever or you filled in that bubble and you promoted and you said, damn right, damn Skippy, I'm okay with it. What does that make you? If you're okay with it, what does it make you? Does it make you a bigot too? Does it make you a bigot supporter? Does it make you a racist supporter? Does it make you racist? Does it make you a sexist? Does it make you I don't know, but it makes you certainly okay with it. It makes you adjacent. It makes you relatable to those characteristics. So don't get mad when people say that, because guess what? The people who are leading the party, the people who are leading the movement, the people you put in place and you voted for, some of them that you did not vote for, but you knew they had a huge influence in the party, that means that you're okay with it. So don't get pissed off when people say you're racist, because then that puts you in a position to have to explain it, to be offended by it. I'm not offended if someone calls me a racist, because I'm not. Then I know that they're lying. I'm not. I don't vote for that. I don't do racist things. Do we all have unconscious biases? Absolutely. So do not get pissed. Oh my God, half of America, you're calling them racist? It's like, no. And it's not half of America, by the way. It's half of the people the voting public, the people who vote. It was a plurality, not the majority of people. So perhaps you should not be upset when the people, and about, oh my God, I can't believe you're calling me Don Lemon said the MAGA people were racist and he attacked all that. How dare he? Look at what the people you put in office are doing. They're saying it's okay to have a racist write things, say things openly in public, not 10 years ago, not when they were in college, not when they're a teenager, but right now when they're a 25-year-old adult who is working in the government, perhaps should not even be in that position, who is old enough to have top secret, top security information at his fingertips, but yet stupid enough to write something like that. So the people you voted for are a representation of you. And you are saying it is okay. So what does that make you? I don't know what else to call it. You remember how you used to say, you guys always said that with Barack Obama, when, why don't they call it what it is? Why don't they call it terrorism? Why don't they call it this? Why do you have to do that? Well, you have to be able to call a thing to identify it. You have to be able to call it. Well, you have to be able to call a thing to identify it. You have to be able to call out racism. And the people who support it, whether you think that you're racist or not, you support it. So what does that make you? I'm not racist, but the guy I voted for is. He says it's okay. I'm not racist, but the guy I voted for says it's okay to normalize hate against members of his own family, his own wife, and his own kids. I'm not racist when my president is standing on a stage saying that these jobs should be had by a certain group of people that are of superior intellect. What is that? Eugenics. I'm not at all. When the vice president gets on stage and says people were denied jobs because of the color of their skin, and he's talking about white people, really, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you kidding me? I'm not racist. When the person who is going to be heading a large institution in this country is saying, you know what? It's okay for someone who just months ago promoted and tweeted saying that white men should be in charge of these jobs. I'm paraphrasing here. Instead of other folks, it should be white men. You voted for those people. You wanted them to be approved by the Senate because Donald Trump wanted them appointed. So I don't know how you can have it both ways and then get so pissed off and bent out of shape when people say MAGA is racist. Maybe you're not. Maybe you don't think you are. But you certainly do condone it and you overlook it. And maybe that makes you worse than someone who is so ignorant that they are racist, is that you have the brain and the intellect to know that racism is bad, but yet still you voted for it. That may make you worse than the racist. Stay woke. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you